The basement door slammed shut above Pamela's head, and in the darkness, she heard her own leg bone crack one more time as she tried to stand. The pain was white-hot, blinding, absolute. She collapsed back onto the concrete floor, her scream trapped behind clenched teeth. Blood soaked through her torn dress, warm and sticky against her skin. Above her, Zach's footsteps crossed the kitchen floor. The television turned on. He was watching the game like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just thrown his wife down a hotel staircase 3 hours ago, like he hadn't dragged her through their house by her broken leg, like he hadn't locked her in the basement to think about what she'd done. Pamela's phone lay 6 inches from her hand. She'd managed to keep it in her pocket through everything. Her fingers closed around it, the screen lighting up her blood-streaked face. The pain made her vision swim, but she found her father's number through pure muscle memory. Miguel Guzman answered on the first ring. "Mija, it's late. What's wrong?" Pamela's voice came out broken, barely a whisper. "Dad, don't let a single one of the family survive." Silence. Then her father's voice turned to ice. "Where are you?" "Basement. Our house. He locked me in. Dad, my leg." "How bad?" "I can see bone." "I'm coming. 20 minutes. Can you stay conscious?" "Yes." "Good girl. Keep talking to me." Pamela closed her eyes, phone pressed to her ear, and told her father everything. How she'd gone to the Rosewood Hotel because Zach said he was working late. How she'd found him in the presidential suite with Sandra Smith, his secretary. How Sandra was wearing nothing but Zach's shirt. How Pamela had walked across that room and slapped Sandra so hard the sound echoed off the marble walls. How Zach had grabbed her. How his face had changed into something she didn't recognize. How he'd twisted her arm behind her back and whispered, "You just embarrassed me in front of her." How he'd thrown her down the hotel's grand staircase. How she'd felt each step crack against her body on the way down. How he'd dragged her to the car while hotel staff looked away. How he'd driven her home in silence. How he'd pulled her out of the car by her shattered leg. How he'd said, "You need to learn your fucking place." Miguel's breathing was controlled, dangerous. "Is he still upstairs?" "Yes, watching football." "Good. That gives me time to get there before I kill him." "Dad, no, don't kill him. That's too easy." Her father's laugh was dark. "You're my daughter, all right. What do you want instead?" Pamela looked up at the basement ceiling, at the darkness that pressed down on her, at the blood pooling beneath her ruined leg. She thought about the house Zach had bought with her money, the business he'd built with her father's connections, the life he'd stolen from her piece by piece until she'd forgotten who she was before him. "I want him to lose everything," she whispered, "everything he built, everything he owns, everything he thinks makes him a man. I want him to watch it disappear. I want him to know I did it, and I want him to live with it." "Consider it done. Now stay on the phone with me until I get there." Pamela closed her eyes and focused on her father's voice. He told her about the construction sites they'd shut down, the permits they'd revoke, the investors they'd turn, the banks they'd freeze. Miguel Guzman had spent 30 years building power in this city, and he was about to use every ounce of it to destroy one man. "Miguel?" A woman's voice in the background. Her stepmother. "Get the crew. We're going to get Pamela, and tell them to bring the medical kit. She's hurt bad." Pamela heard car doors slam, engines start. Her father's voice turned gentle again. "Still with me?" "Still here." "Good. Because I need you to survive this, Mija. You understand? I need you to survive so you can watch him fall." "I will. That's my girl." The basement door exploded open 18 minutes later. Light flooded down the stairs. Miguel came down first, his face turning grey when he saw her. Behind him, 3 men she'd known her whole life. Uncle Carlos, Uncle Ramon, Diego, who'd taught her to ride a bike. They saw her broken body, and their faces went cold. "Jesus Christ," Miguel breathed. He knelt beside her, his hands shaking as he assessed her injuries. "Okay, baby, we're going to move you. It's going to hurt. Do it." Diego came down with a medical kit. He'd been an army medic before he came to work for her father. He cut away her dress, his face grim as he examined her leg. Compound fracture, tibia and fibula both shattered. She needs surgery now. Hospital? Carlos asked. Private facility. Dr. Reyes. Call him. Tell him we're coming, and it's Miguel's daughter. They fashioned a stretcher from a board they ripped off the basement wall. The movement made Pamela scream, a sound she didn't recognize coming from her own throat. Miguel held her hand the entire time they carried her up the stairs. Zach was still on the couch, beer in hand, watching the game. He looked up when they emerged from the basement. His face went pale. What the hell are you doing in my house? Miguel walked over to him slowly. Zach stood, trying to look tough, but Pamela could see the fear in his eyes. Her father was smaller than Zach, older, but everyone in this city knew Miguel Guzman's name. Everyone knew what it meant. Your house? Miguel's voice was quiet, deadly. This house was bought with my daughter's trust fund, which makes it her house, which means you've been living in her charity for 5 years. Now wait a minute. Miguel's fist caught Zach across the jaw. He went down hard. Her father stood over him. You put your hands on my daughter. You locked her in a basement like an animal. And now you're going to learn what it means to cross Miguel Guzman. Zach's mouth was bleeding. She attacked Sandra. I don't care if she burned your whore alive. You don't put your hands on her, and now you're going to pay. Miguel pulled out his phone and made a call. Start it. Everything. I want him bleeding by sunrise. He hung up and looked down at Zach. By tomorrow morning you won't have a business. By tomorrow afternoon you won't have credit. By tomorrow night you won't have a name worth speaking. And you're going to live long enough to see all of it. Because if you die, the pain stops, and I don't want your pain to stop. They carried Pamela out to the waiting car. Behind them, Zach was shouting something about lawyers, about rights, about how Miguel couldn't do this. Her father paused at the door. I just did. Welcome to the rest of your life. The car ride was a blur of pain and sirens. They pulled up to a private medical facility, Dr. Reyes already waiting with a surgical team. As they wheeled her inside, Pamela caught a glimpse of a man standing in the hallway, expensive suit, dark hair, watching her pass with eyes that held something she couldn't name. Then the anesthesia hit, and the world went dark. When she woke up 12 hours later, her leg was in a cast, and her father was sitting beside her bed. His eyes were red. How bad? She asked. They put you back together, 6 months recovery, but you'll walk again. And him? Miguel smiled, and it was a terrible thing to see. He woke up to find his world on fire. 3 construction sites shut down for code violations. His largest investor pulled out. His bank froze his accounts. His business partner is already talking to lawyers. Good. There's something else. Miguel's face was serious. Sandra's husband knows. State Senator David Chen held a press conference this morning with photos of the affair. Her face is on every news channel. Her career is over. Pamela closed her eyes. I want her destroyed too. She will be. I promise you that. A knock on the door. A nurse entered with medication, but behind her, Pamela saw that man again, the one from the hallway. He was standing outside her room, just watching. When their eyes met, he didn't look away. Miguel followed her gaze. That's Adriel Harrington, billionaire. Owns half the luxury hotels in the country. He was here visiting his aunt and saw them bring you in. He paused. He's been standing in that hallway for 6 hours. Won't leave. Keeps asking if you're going to be okay. Why? I asked him that. You know what he said? Because I've watched too many women get hurt and done nothing. Then he just went back to waiting. Pamela stared at the stranger through the door window. He was reading a book now, but every few minutes he'd look up at her room, like he was keeping watch. Make him leave, she whispered. I tried. He won't. Then ignore him. But as the medication pulled her back under, Pamela's last thought was of those eyes. Watching, waiting, and she wondered what kind of man stood vigil for a broken stranger in a hospital hallway. The answer would change everything. Chapter 2. The Stranger. 3 days passed before Pamela could stay awake for more than an hour at a time. The pain medication kept her floating in a haze of half-dreams where Zach's face morphed into monsters and the basement walls closed in around her. Every time she woke up gasping, Miguel was there. Sometimes her stepmother, Rosa. Once, her childhood friend, Maria, who cried when she saw the bruises. But every single time she opened her eyes, that stranger was in the hallway. Dr. Reyes came in on the fourth morning with her charts. "Your recovery is progressing well. The surgery was successful. We stabilized the fractures with pins and plates. You'll need extensive physical therapy, but there's no reason you won't walk again." "When can I leave?" "Not for at least a week. Then you'll transfer to a rehabilitation facility." After he left, Pamela stared at the ceiling. A week. 7 more days in this bed while Zach was out there somewhere. Miguel had assured her that Zach was drowning, but it didn't feel like enough. She wanted to see his face when everything crumbled. She wanted to watch him beg. The door opened. She expected her father. Instead, Adriel Harrington walked in. He was taller than she'd realized. Mid-30s, dark hair with grey at the temples, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's cars, but his eyes were what stopped her. Tired, kind, and completely unafraid of her father's reputation. "You shouldn't be in here," Pamela said, her voice hoarse. "I know, I'm sorry. I just needed to see that you were awake." He stayed by the door, hands in his pockets. "My name is Adriel Harrington. I know, my father told me you've been camping in the hallway. I apologize if that made you uncomfortable." "It did. It does. I don't know you." "You don't." He pulled a card from his pocket and set it on the table by the door. "But if you need anything during your recovery, a better doctor, a safer place to heal, security, anything, call that number." Why would a billionaire care about a stranger? Adriel's jaw tightened. "Because I watched my father put my mother in the hospital 3 times before she finally left him, and every time, strangers looked away. Doctors, neighbors, friends, everyone saw, and no one did anything. She survived despite all of us, not because of us. I'm not your mother. No, but you're someone's daughter, someone's friend, and you deserved better than what happened to you." Pamela felt something crack in her chest. "Get out." He nodded and turned to leave. "Wait." She didn't know why she stopped him. "Your mother, did she... After she left, was she okay?" Adriel looked back, and for the first time, he smiled. It transformed his entire face. She took the clothes on her back and $20 from his wallet. 5 years later, she owned her own investment firm. 10 years later, she was worth more than he ever was. She's the strongest person I've ever met. Good for her. She taught me something, that the women who survive that kind of violence aren't victims. They're warriors, and warriors deserve to be honored, not pitied. He left before she could respond. The card sat on the table, expensive embossed text catching the light. Pamela stared at it for a long time. Then she reached over and threw it in the trash. Miguel came in an hour later with updates. Zach's business partner Kyle pressed charges for embezzlement. Apparently Zach was moving money into hidden accounts, trying to protect assets from my reach. Smart. Not smart enough. The accounts were traced to offshore holdings. Kyle's claiming Zach stole company funds. Prosecutors are interested. Will he go to prison? Miguel's smile was sharp. If we want him to. But I think watching him lose everything while staying free might be worse. Let him see what his life becomes with nothing left. Pamela nodded. That was better. Prison was contained, prison was safe. She wanted Zach out in the world, struggling, drowning, knowing she'd done it. There's something else, Miguel said carefully. Sandra's missing. What? Her car was found abandoned near the state border. No signs of foul play, but she's gone. Police are investigating it as a possible kidnapping. Pamela's voice was flat. Did you? No. Miguel met her eyes. I didn't touch her. But the day after her husband's press conference, she came to the hospital asking to see you. Security turned her away. She was screaming about how you'd destroyed her life, about how she'd make you pay. He paused. I had some people explain to her that making threats against you was inadvisable. Apparently, she decided leaving town was safer than staying. She ran. She ran. And if she's smart, she'll keep running. Over the next 3 days, Adriel Harrington continued his vigil in the hallway. Pamela watched him through the door window. He never tried to come in again, just sat there reading, occasionally talking on his phone, always present. On day 7, she finally asked Miguel, "Why is he still here?" Her father looked at the billionaire through the glass. "I asked him that yesterday. He said he stays until he's sure you don't need anything." "That's insane." "Maybe. Or maybe he knows something about survival that we don't." Pamela was transferred to an elite rehabilitation facility on day 8. The place was beautiful, more like a resort than a hospital. Private rooms, gourmet meals, physical therapists who actually listened. Miguel had spared no expense. She told him specifically, "Make sure that billionaire doesn't follow." Miguel smiled. "Already told him you don't want him there." "Good." But when the ambulance pulled up to the facility entrance, Adriel Harrington was standing in the lobby. Pamela's fury was immediate. "Are you stalking me?" "No." He walked over calmly. "I own this facility. Built it 3 years ago after my mother's recovery from her final surgery. She wanted a place where people could heal without feeling like patients." "Of course you do." Pamela wanted to scream. "So you what? You're going to watch me through windows here too?" "No, I'm going to make sure you get the best care available. Then I'm going to leave you alone unless you decide you need something." He handed her another card. "My personal number, not business. If you need anything, call." "I won't." "I know, but the option is there." He walked away, and Pamela wanted to throw something at his back. Instead, she let them wheel her to her room. It was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking gardens, a private bathroom with a soaking tub, furniture that looked like it belonged in a 5-star hotel, everything a person could need to heal. That night, Pamela couldn't sleep. The pain medication made her drowsy but not unconscious. She kept thinking about Zach, about Sandra, about her father's cold promise of destruction, about the stranger who kept showing up uninvited. At 2 in the morning, she wheeled herself to the window. The gardens were lit by soft path lights, and sitting on a bench directly below her window was Adriel Harrington, just sitting there, reading by lamplight. Pamela grabbed her phone and called the number on his card. She watched him answer. "Hello?" "Go home." Through the window, she saw him look up at her room. "I will. I'm just finishing a chapter." "It's 2 in the morning. I'm an insomniac, have been since I was a kid. I find peace in quiet places. This is my quiet place. I know. That's why I'm sitting down here instead of in the lobby, giving you space." Pamela's grip tightened on the phone. "What do you want from me?" The pause was long. "Nothing. Absolutely nothing." "Then why?" "Because 3 weeks ago, I watched paramedics carry a broken woman into a hospital. And I made a promise to myself that if she survived, I'd make sure she never felt that helpless again. Not because I want something from you, because it's the right thing to do. I don't need saving. I know, that's why I'm not trying to save you. I'm just here, if you need anything. I need you to leave." "Okay." He stood up. Through the window, she watched him close his book. "But I'm leaving my number. And I'm making sure the staff knows you're priority 1. And if anything happens, if you need anything, you can call." "I won't." "That's your choice." He walked away into the darkness. Pamela watched until he disappeared. Then she looked down at the card in her hand. The expensive embossing caught the moonlight. She should throw it away. Instead, she put it in her nightstand drawer. 3 weeks into her rehabilitation, Adriel came to visit. Not to her room. He respected that boundary. But he showed up to watch her physical therapy session through the observation window. Pamela saw him standing there, arms crossed, watching her struggle to walk between parallel bars. The pain was excruciating. Every step felt like her leg was breaking all over again. But she refused to stop, refused to cry, refused to be weak. When the session ended, she wheeled herself over to the window and knocked. He came into the gym. "Why do you keep coming back?" she demanded. "Because I have a proposition for you." "I'm not interested in whatever." "Your grandmother's warehouse building on 4th Street. I saw it in the property records. It's been sitting empty for 12 years. Pamela froze. How did he know about that? "I want to help you renovate it," Adriel continued. "Turn it into something beautiful. No strings attached. No payment required. Consider it an investment." "In what?" "In your future." He met her eyes. "Because while everyone else sees a woman recovering from violence, I see someone who's going to build an empire from this. And I want to be part of that. Not for profit, for the privilege of watching you rise." Pamela stared at this impossible man. "You're insane." "Possibly, but I'm also serious." He pulled out a folder. "These are preliminary sketches. What that building could become. Look at them. Think about it. No pressure." He left the folder on the chair beside her and walked out. Pamela didn't open it for 3 days. But on the 4th day, alone in her room at midnight, she finally looked. The sketches were breathtaking. The warehouse transformed into a modern loft, exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows, industrial chic design, a space that honored what the building had been while creating something entirely new. At the bottom of the last page, a handwritten note. "You don't have to trust me. You don't have to like me, but let me do this one thing. Let me prove that not all men destroy. Some of us build." Pamela closed the folder and stared out at the gardens. She thought about Zach, who'd taken everything from her. She thought about her father, who was burning Zach's world down. She thought about this stranger who kept offering help without asking for anything in return, and she realized something that terrified her. She wanted to see what would happen if she said yes. Chapter 3. The Offer. Pamela signed the renovation contract on a Tuesday morning while rain hammered against the facility windows. Miguel read through every line 3 times. "This is legitimate. No hidden clauses, no strings. He's putting up $600,000 to renovate your building and asking for nothing in return." "That makes no sense." "No, it doesn't." Miguel looked at his daughter. "Which means either he's genuinely trying to help, or he's playing a game so sophisticated I can't see the angle yet." "What do you think?" "I think I've spent 3 weeks having him investigated. Adriel Harrington, 38 years old, inherited his father's hotel business at 25 after the old man died of a heart attack. Spent the next decade transforming it from a mid-level chain into a luxury brand. Worth approximately $3 billion. No criminal record, no scandal. His employees speak highly of him. His ex-wife, from a brief marriage in his 20s, says he's a good man who worked too much." "Ex-wife?" "Divorced 7 years ago. Amicable split. She got a generous settlement and they still have lunch twice a year." Miguel set down the contract. "He's either exactly what he appears to be, or he's the most dangerous kind of predator. The patient kind." Pamela picked up the pen. "Only one way to find out." She signed. The renovation crew showed up the next day. Not Miguel's construction guys, Adriel's personal team from his hotel projects. They transformed that warehouse faster than Pamela thought possible. She watched through video calls as they stripped away decades of decay and revealed the bones of something beautiful. Adriel came to the facility twice a week with updates. Never staying long, never pushing for more than business discussions, showing her material samples, design options, progress photos. He treated her like a client, not a charity case, like someone whose opinion mattered. "Why luxury finishes?" she asked during one visit. "This is just going to be my home." "Because you deserve luxury." He said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Besides, the building deserves to be honored for what it is. Your grandmother bought this property in 1975 when women couldn't get business loans without a husband's signature. She forged your grandfather's signature after he died and built a textile business that employed 200 people. That building holds history. We should treat it accordingly." Pamela had never known that story. "How do you know that?" "I researched the property, found old news articles. Your grandmother was remarkable. She died when I was 12. She would be proud of you. For what? Getting beat up and locked in a basement. Adriel's eyes were serious. For surviving it, for not letting it destroy you. That takes strength most people don't have. After 6 weeks, Pamela was walking with a cane. After 8 weeks, she was walking without one, though her physical therapist warned against pushing too hard. After 10 weeks, she was approved to leave the facility. The day she was discharged, Miguel drove her to the warehouse. Pamela stood on the sidewalk, staring up at the building she'd inherited and forgotten about. It was completely transformed. The exterior had been cleaned and restored. New windows gleamed. A bronze plaque by the door read, Guzman Building Est. 1975. Inside was even more stunning. The ground floor had been converted into a loft that took her breath away. Exposed brick walls, polished concrete floors, modern kitchen with restaurant-grade appliances, floor-to-ceiling windows flooding the space with light, furniture that mixed industrial edge with comfort, art on the walls, local artists, Miguel explained, that Adriel had commissioned. He did this in 3 months, Pamela whispered. He had 3 crews working around the clock. Miguel walked through the space. The upper floors are still raw. He said you should decide what they become. But this level is yours. Move in ready. Pamela found Adriel on the rooftop. He was looking out over the city, hands in his pockets. It's too much, she said. It's exactly enough. I can't pay you back. I don't want you to. He turned to face her. But I do want to make you an offer. A real one this time. He handed her a folder. Inside were architectural plans, financial projections, partnership agreements. I'm developing a boutique hotel in the Arts District, Adriel explained. 15 blocks from here. The building is a historic theater that's been abandoned for 20 years. I want to restore it, turn it into something special, and I want you as my partner. Pamela laughed. I don't know anything about hotels. No, but you have vision. I've watched you make decisions on this renovation. You have an eye for what works, what feels right. Every choice you made was perfect. He pulled out renderings. I can handle the operations, the management, the business side, but I need someone who can make the space feel alive, who understands what luxury actually means. Which is what? Not expensive, personal. Luxury is making someone feel seen, understood, like they matter. He met her eyes. You understand that, because you've spent years being invisible. You know what it's like to be overlooked. That perspective is valuable. You want me as a partner. 50-50 ownership, your name on the deed, equal say in every decision. He paused. Full disclosure. This is a business proposition, but it's also my way of giving you something that can't be taken away. If we build this together, you'll own half a luxury hotel in one of the best neighborhoods in the city. That's real wealth, real power, the kind that no one can put in a basement. Pamela looked at the plans. The theater was beautiful even in decay. Ornate architecture, soaring ceilings, bones that demanded respect. Why would you give me half? Because I don't need another property. I have 27 hotels already. What I need is to build something that matters with someone who understands why it matters. Adriel's voice was quiet. My mother worked 3 jobs after she left my father, cleaned offices at night, waitressed, sold her paintings on street corners. She clawed her way up from nothing, and every time someone gave her a real chance, not charity, a genuine opportunity, it changed her trajectory. I'm not giving you charity, Pamela. I'm giving you a chance. What you do with it is entirely up to you. Pamela studied this man who'd appeared in her life like a hurricane, patient, persistent, offering things that seemed impossible. I need to think about it. Of course, take your time. But Miguel had other news waiting when they got back to the loft. Zach had been arrested. Embezzlement charges, Miguel explained. Kyle's evidence was compelling. Prosecutors moved fast. Bail is set at $500,000. Can he make it? His mother mortgaged her house. He'll be out tomorrow. Pamela felt nothing. She thought she'd feel satisfaction, but there was only emptiness where her marriage used to be. That night, she stood in her new loft surrounded by luxury she hadn't earned, holding a business proposal from a man she barely knew, thinking about a husband who'd destroyed her because she'd embarrassed him. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then Zach's voice, raw and desperate. Pam, please. I know I don't deserve to talk to you, but I'm begging. Tell your father to stop. No. Everything's gone. The business, the house, my reputation. I'm going to prison for crimes I didn't commit. You hid money in offshore accounts. To protect you, if Miguel came after me, I wanted to make sure you'd be taken care of. You locked me in a basement with a shattered leg because I slapped your mistress. Don't pretend any of this was about protecting me. I know. God, I know. I lost my mind. I don't know what happened. The moment I threw you, I wanted to take it back. I wanted to catch you, but I couldn't. And then it was too late and I panicked. Stop. Please, Pamela, I love you. I know I destroyed everything, but if there's any chance... She hung up. The phone rang again. She blocked the number. It rang from a different number. She blocked that one too. After the fifth call, she turned off her phone and sat in the darkness of her beautiful new home, shaking. A knock on the door. She almost didn't answer, but something made her look through the peephole. Adriel stood in the hallway holding a bag from her favorite Thai restaurant. She opened the door. How did you know where I was? You looked like you were about to either collapse or murder someone. I figured food might help with one of those options. He held up the bag. Panang curry, extra spicy. Miguel mentioned it's your comfort food. You asked my father about my comfort food. I asked his assistant, less intimidating. He smiled. Can I come in? Or would you prefer to eat alone? Pamela should have said no. Should have closed the door, should have maintained the walls she'd spent months building. Instead, she stepped aside. They ate at her new kitchen island. Adriel didn't ask about the phone calls or why she looked destroyed. He just told her about his day, a problem with a hotel in Seattle, a chef who quit dramatically, a guest who'd tried to bring their emotional support peacock into the restaurant. Despite everything, Pamela laughed. That's the first time I've heard you laugh, Adriel said quietly. I haven't had much to laugh about. No, but you will again. After dinner, he started to leave. Pamela stopped him at the door. The hotel. I want to see the building before I decide. Of course, when? Tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 10. He left, and Pamela stood in her doorway, watching him walk down the hall. This man who kept showing up, who kept offering chances without demanding anything in return, who looked at her like she was capable of extraordinary things. She didn't trust him, but she wanted to, and that was the most terrifying feeling of all. Chapter 4. The Partnership. The abandoned theatre sat on a corner lot like a forgotten crown. Adriel pulled up at exactly 10 in the morning, driving a simple black sedan, not the luxury car Pamela expected. He opened her door without ceremony, and they stood together on the sidewalk looking up at the building. The Paramount Theatre, he said, built in 1928, hosted Broadway shows, concerts, films, closed in 1987 when the neighborhood collapsed, been sitting empty since. The facade was spectacular even in decay, Art Deco details, ornate marquee, windows that suggested grandeur inside. Pamela could see what it had been. More importantly, she could see what it could become. Let me show you. He'd gotten permits to enter. Inside was a disaster, water damage, vandalism, decades of neglect. But the bones were magnificent. Soaring ceilings, original moldings, a balcony that wrapped around the space, hardwood floors under layers of grime. The main theatre becomes the lobby, Adriel explained, walking through the space. Grand entrance with the original marquee restored. Check-in desk where the stage was. The balcony becomes a mezzanine lounge with the original bar restored. Guest rooms in the wings and upper floors. Pamela could see it, the vision crystallizing in her mind. How many rooms? 48. All suites, each one designed individually. No cookie-cutter corporate hotel experience. Every guest feels like they're staying somewhere irreplaceable. That's ambitious. That's the point. He looked at her. I don't need another standard hotel. I need something that tells a story. And this building has stories. They spent 3 hours walking through the space. Adriel showed her every flaw, every problem, every possibility. He didn't sugarcoat the challenges. The building needed everything: electrical, plumbing, HVAC, structural reinforcement. The budget would be substantial. 15 million total investment, he said. I'll put up 12 million. You put up 3. Pamela stopped walking. I don't have $3 million. Your building is worth that. Use it as collateral. Or we restructure the deal. I put up all capital. You contribute sweat equity through design work. Either way, you own 50%. That's not equal investment. It's equal value. Money I have. Vision like yours is rare. They ended up on the rooftop. The view was spectacular. Downtown skyline in one direction, Arts District in the other. Pamela imagined a rooftop bar up here. Glass walls, views for days. The kind of place people would propose or celebrate or just feel alive. I have conditions, she said. Name them. I want full creative control of the design. You don't override my decisions on aesthetics. Agreed. I want equal say in all business operations. This isn't you humoring me with decorating choices while you run everything. Absolutely. And I want a clause that if this partnership dissolves for any reason, we both have equal rights to buy the other out at fair market value. No one gets screwed. Adriel extended his hand. You have a deal. Pamela looked at his hand. This was the moment. Once she shook, she was committed, trusting a man she barely knew with a future she couldn't quite believe in. She shook. His grip was firm but not crushing, professional. When do we start? She asked. Tomorrow. I'll have the partnership documents drawn up by my attorney. You should have your own lawyer review them. Miguel will do it. Good. I want you protected. Over the next week, Pamela learned that Adriel Harrington was exactly as serious as he claimed. The documents were airtight and fair. Miguel found no issues. The deal was structured exactly as promised. 50-50 ownership, equal decision-making power, clear exit strategies. He's either legitimate or the most patient con artist I've ever seen, Miguel said, and I've seen a lot of con artists. What's your gut say? Her father was quiet for a long time. My gut says he's a man who watched his mother suffer and vowed to never be his father. Those men go two ways. They become angels or devils. He seems to be the first kind. But Mija, be careful. Men who save women sometimes expect gratitude that looks a lot like ownership. Pamela signed the partnership agreement in Adriel's office downtown. His attorney and her father witnessed. When it was done, Adriel raised a glass of champagne. To the Guzman Harrington Hotel. That's the name? Pamela asked. Your name first. Non-negotiable. They toasted, and for the first time in months, Pamela felt something other than rage or fear. She felt possibility. Construction began immediately. Adriel's crews gutted the building while Pamela worked with architects on design. She discovered she loved this. The problem-solving, the vision-building, the way she could look at empty space and see what it should become. Every day they met at the site, reviewing progress, making decisions, arguing about details. Adriel pushed back when he disagreed, which she appreciated. He treated her like an equal, not a charity case or a fragile survivor. 6 weeks into construction, Zach's embezzlement case collapsed. His lawyer discovered the hidden money was in accounts under Pamela's name, technically legal asset protection, not theft. The prosecutor dropped charges. Zach was free but destroyed. No business, no reputation, no future. He started calling again. Different numbers every time. Pamela blocked them all. Then he showed up at the construction site. Security stopped him at the gate. Pamela watched through her trailer window as Zach argued with the guards. He looked terrible, 50 pounds lighter, unshaven, wearing clothes that hung off his frame. Adriel appeared beside her. Want me to have him removed? No. Let him see. She walked out of the trailer and stood where Zach could see her. She was wearing construction boots, holding blueprints, standing in front of a building she owned half of. She looked like exactly what she was, a woman building an empire. Zach's face crumpled. Pam, please, 5 minutes. No. I'm homeless. My mother lost her house because of me. I'm working day labor when I can find it. Everything's gone. Your father destroyed me. Good. I just need help. A chance. Anything. Pamela walked closer to the fence, close enough that he could see her eyes. You threw me down a staircase. You broke my leg. You locked me in a basement. You told me to remember my place. She smiled. This is my place now, and you'll never touch it. She walked back inside. Behind her, Zach collapsed against the fence. Adriel's security escorted him off the property. That night, Adriel took her to dinner. Not a date. He was careful about that. Just two business partners reviewing progress over a meal. That was hard, he said, seeing him. It was easier than I thought. Why? Because I finally understand something. He didn't break me. He broke us. The relationship, the marriage. But me? She met Adriel's eyes. I'm still here, and I'm building something he could never destroy. Adriel smiled. You're going to be formidable when this is done. I'm formidable now. Yes, you are. After dinner, they walked through the arts district. The neighborhood was transforming. New galleries, restaurants, coffee shops, young artists and professionals moving in. The hotel would be opening into a renaissance. Have you thought about what happens after? Adriel asked. After what? After this hotel opens and succeeds. What's next for you? Pamela hadn't thought that far ahead. I don't know. We should build more. A collection. Hotels that tell stories. Properties with history. He paused. I know you're not ready to think about this yet. But when you are, I want you to know, I see this as a beginning, not an ending. Of what? Of you becoming exactly who you were meant to be before someone tried to make you small. They reached her building. Adriel walked her to the door, but didn't ask to come up. Thank you, Pamela said, for all of this. You're welcome. But Pamela, you're doing this. I'm just providing the capital, the vision, the work, the transformation. That's all you. After he left, Pamela stood in her loft looking at design sketches spread across her dining table. 6 months ago, she'd been locked in a basement with a shattered leg. Now she was designing a luxury hotel, building wealth, creating something that would outlast everyone who'd tried to diminish her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Adriel. Forgot to mention, opening in 8 months, no pressure. She laughed and texted back, we'll do it in 7. His response, that's my partner. Pamela looked at those words. Partner, equal, builder. She was becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone who couldn't be locked in basements or told what her place was. And for the first time since the Rosewood Hotel, she felt something that almost resembled hope. Chapter 5. Opening night. The Guzman Harrington Hotel opened its doors on a Friday evening in October, exactly 7 months after construction began. Pamela stood in the restored lobby wearing a black Armani gown that Miguel had insisted on buying. Her leg ached from the heels, but she refused to show weakness. Not tonight. Tonight was about power. The transformation was spectacular. The theater's original marquee glowed outside, restored to its 1928 glory. Inside, the lobby soared 3 stories high with the original balcony converted to a mezzanine lounge. Art Deco chandeliers cast warm light over polished marble floors. The former stage now housed an elegant check-in desk made of brass and walnut. Every detail was perfect. You did this, Adriel said beside her. He wore a midnight blue suit, looking like he belonged on the cover of a magazine. This is your vision realized. Our vision. No, this was always yours. I just wrote the checks. The first guests were arriving. Local celebrities, business moguls, press from architecture and design magazines. The mayor. Everyone wanted to see what had risen from the abandoned theater. Miguel arrived with Rosa, both dressed like royalty. Her father's eyes swept the space with professional appreciation. Mija, this is extraordinary. We're fully booked for 6 months, Pamela told him. Already have a waiting list. Of course you do. This is world class. The evening flowed like champagne. Pamela moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations, answering questions, watching people fall in love with the space she'd created. She saw it in their eyes, the moment they understood this wasn't just a hotel, it was an experience. Around 8, Sandra's former husband approached her, State Senator David Chen, who'd held that devastating press conference. "Ms. Guzman, stunning achievement. Senator, thank you for coming. I wanted to apologize for Sandra, for what happened. I had no idea what she was doing. The affair wasn't your fault." "No, but I ignored signs I shouldn't have. Made excuses." He paused. "She disappeared, you know, left everything. Her career, her children, her life. Police never found her. I heard. Part of me hopes she's somewhere safe. Rebuilding, the way you have." His eyes were sad. "And part of me hopes she's suffering the way she made others suffer. Is that terrible?" "It's human." After he left, Adriel appeared at her elbow. "You okay?" "Why wouldn't I be? Because this is a lot, and you're allowed to feel whatever you're feeling." Pamela looked at him. "I feel triumphant. Is that wrong?" "No, it's earned." The hotel bar was packed. The rooftop lounge had a line. Every restaurant table was reserved. The opening was a complete success. Around midnight, most guests had filtered away. Pamela stood at the bar nursing champagne, watching staff begin clean-up. "Come on," Adriel said. "I want to show you something." He led her up to the rooftop, the private section, closed to guests tonight. The view was breathtaking. City lights sprawled in every direction, October stars brilliant overhead. "Remember standing on that rooftop at the theater 7 months ago?" Adriel asked. "When I signed the partnership." "You were terrified." "I was." "Are you still?" Pamela considered it. "No. Now I'm just impatient. I want to build more." Adriel smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." He pulled out his phone and showed her photos. 3 more properties, a warehouse in Portland, a historic train station in Denver, a textile mill in Austin. "I've had my team scouting. If you're interested, we expand the collection. Same partnership terms. Your vision, my capital, 50-50 ownership." "You're serious?" "Completely." Pamela looked at the properties. Each one had potential. Each one was a blank canvas waiting for transformation. "We'd need to focus on one at a time." "Agreed. Portland first. It's the most straightforward." "When?" "We could start scouting next month. Have you ever been to Portland?" "No." "It's your kind of city. Creative, rebellious, refuses to be anything other than itself." They stood together looking at the city below, the hotel glowing behind them, the empire they were building spreading out in possibility. "I need to ask you something," Pamela said. "Why are you doing this? Building hotels? Building me up. You could partner with anyone, experienced developers, people with track records. Why invest in someone who 6 months ago was in a hospital bed?" Adriel was quiet for a long time. "My mother used to tell me something. She said the world is full of people with talent and nowhere to use it. People who get destroyed before they realize what they're capable of. She said the greatest thing anyone can do is recognize potential and give it space to grow. And you think I have potential? I think you have vision, courage, and fury. That combination is unstoppable." He turned to face her. "But honestly, I'm not just doing this for you. I'm doing it for me too. Building hotels was my father's dream. I inherited his company and turned it into something bigger. But I was always just continuing his vision. With you, I'm building something new, something mine, ours. So, I'm your redemption project." "No, you're my partner. There's a difference." A commotion below. They looked over the edge. Zach was in the street outside, arguing with security. Even from up here, Pamela could hear him shouting her name. "Want me to call the police?" Adriel asked. Pamela watched her ex-husband fall apart on the sidewalk. Watched security firmly escort him away. Watched him disappear into the night. "No, let him go. He can't touch this." They went back inside. The last guests were leaving. Staff was cleaning up. Adriel walked Pamela to her car. "Dinner tomorrow?" he asked. "To celebrate?" "Business dinner." He hesitated. "Does it have to be?" Pamela's heart jumped. "What are you asking?" "I'm asking if you'd have dinner with me, not as partners, just as two people who might want to know each other better." "Adriel, you can say no. It won't change our partnership, I promise you that. But I need to be honest with you. I have feelings for you. I've had them for months, and I can keep them professional if that's what you need. But if there's any chance you feel something too, I want to know." Pamela's hands were shaking. "I don't trust myself around men. I know. I don't know if I can feel what you're feeling." "I know that too." "Then why ask?" "Because I'm tired of pretending I only want to be your business partner. And because I think you deserve honesty, even when it's complicated." Pamela looked at this man who'd shown up in a hospital hallway 8 months ago and refused to leave, who'd invested everything in helping her rise, who'd treated her like an equal when she felt broken. "I'm not ready," she whispered. "Okay." The disappointment in his eyes was visible but controlled. "I understand. But maybe someday I will be." Adriel smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "Then I'll wait, however long it takes." He walked away, and Pamela stood beside her car watching him go. Her chest hurt, her hands shook. Every instinct screamed at her to run from this feeling, this vulnerability, this terrifying possibility that she might trust someone again. Instead, she called after him. "Adriel." He turned. "One dinner, just to see, but no expectations, no pressure, just two people eating food and talking. Deal. And if I decide I can't do this, then we go back to being partners, and I never mention it again, I promise." Pamela nodded and got in her car. She drove home through the city she was conquering, past the building she owned half of, to the loft that had been gifted to her by a man who expected nothing in return. Miguel called as she was getting ready for bed. "The opening was perfect. You should be proud." "I am. I saw how that billionaire looks at you." "Dad, I'm not saying anything, just that I saw it. And I saw your face when you looked back." He paused. "You're allowed to be happy, Mija. You're allowed to heal. You're allowed to trust again. What if I choose wrong again? Then you survive again. That's what we do. We survive and we build and we refuse to let anything destroy us." After hanging up, Pamela stood at her floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Zach was homeless and broken. Somewhere out there, Sandra was hiding from her ruined life. And here she stood, owner of a successful hotel, partner with a billionaire, builder of her own empire. She'd won. So why did it feel incomplete? "Because you're not done," a voice whispered in her head. "Because revenge was satisfying but empty. Because building was better than destroying. Because somewhere in the chaos of the past 8 months, she'd stopped being defined by what Zach had done to her and started being defined by what she was creating. And maybe, that included the possibility of trusting someone again." Her phone buzzed. Text from Adriel. "Tomorrow night, 7 p.m, I'll pick you up. Wear something comfortable. No pressure. Just possibility." Pamela stared at the message. Then she texted back, "Okay." His response was immediate. "Thank you for taking a chance." She set down her phone and looked at her reflection in the dark window. The woman looking back was different from the one who'd been locked in a basement. Stronger, fiercer, unbreakable, but also maybe ready to be vulnerable one more time, just to see what happened. Chapter 6. The Wall. The first date never happened. Pamela cancelled at 6 p.m. with a text that said simply, "I can't. I'm sorry." Adriel responded, "No apologies needed. I'm here when you're ready." She expected anger, disappointment, the passive-aggressive silence Zach had weaponized whenever she displeased him. Instead, Adriel showed up to their Monday morning meeting at the hotel like nothing had changed. Professional, focused, treating her exactly the same. It made her furious for reasons she couldn't articulate. The second hotel, Miami property, required them to travel together. 3 days scouting the location, meeting with architects, negotiating with the city. Pamela spent the entire flight waiting for Adriel to mention the cancelled date. He never did. The Miami building was a 1950s Art Moderne hotel that had been gutted by hurricanes and abandoned. The facade was spectacular, curved corners, geometric details, pastel colors faded by decades of salt air. Inside was a disaster, but Pamela saw past it. "Ocean-facing suites," she said, walking through the wreckage. "Floor-to-ceiling glass. Balconies on every room. We turn the original pool area into a courtyard with gardens. The rooftop becomes an event space." Adriel took notes, asking questions, pushing her to think bigger. They worked 14-hour days, falling into their familiar rhythm. At night, they had dinner together because it made sense. They were discussing business, reviewing plans, making decisions. On the third night, over Cuban food at a little Havana restaurant, Adriel finally broke. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you cancel?" Pamela's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "I told you I wasn't ready." "No, I know that. But what specifically made you cancel at the last minute? Was it something I did?" "No." "Something I said?" "No." "Then help me understand, because I'm trying to be patient, but I need to know if I'm waiting for something that will never happen or if you genuinely need time." Pamela set down her fork. Around them, the restaurant buzzed with life and laughter and people who weren't having this conversation. "I was getting dressed," she said quietly. "I had the perfect outfit picked out. Hair done. Makeup. And then I looked in the mirror and I panicked." "Why?" "Because the last time I got dressed up for a man, I ended up in a basement with a broken leg. And my brain knows you're not Zach, but my body doesn't. When I think about being vulnerable with you, every nerve in my body screams danger." Adriel was silent for a long moment. "I understand. Do you? Because I don't. You've been nothing but kind and patient and respectful. You've given me everything and asked for nothing, and I still can't trust you. What does that say about me?" "It says you survived trauma. That's not a character flaw. That's your nervous system protecting you. It's been 9 months, and trauma doesn't care about timelines." He leaned forward. "Pamela, I meant what I said. No pressure. If you're never ready, if this partnership is all we ever have, I'll accept that. But I need you to know something. I'm not waiting because I'm hoping you'll change your mind. I'm waiting because I believe you're worth waiting for. There's a difference." Pamela felt tears threatening. She forced them back. "What if I'm broken? What if what he did to me destroyed my ability to trust anyone? Then we build your trust the same way we build hotels. Brick by brick, foundation first, no rushing the process." His eyes were intense. "But you're not broken. You're healing, and healing takes as long as it takes." They flew back to their city the next day. The partnership on the Miami property was signed. 50-50 ownership, Pamela's design vision, Adriel's capital and operations expertise. Another building for their growing collection. But something had shifted between them. The unspoken feelings were now spoken. The possibility hung in the air like a note waiting to be played. 2 weeks later, Zach's mother died. Linda had a second stroke, massive and fatal. The hospital called Pamela because she was still listed as next of kin. She went, not for Zach, but because Linda had been kind to her once, had warned her in her final moments about what her son had become. Zach was at the hospital, destroyed, 50 pounds lighter than when Pamela had married him, wearing clothes from a donation centre. His eyes were hollow. He saw her and collapsed. "She's gone. My mother is gone, and it's my fault. The stress of losing the house, of seeing me arrested, of everything, it killed her." Pamela felt nothing. She thought she should feel something. Pity, maybe. Vindication. But there was only emptiness. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Don't." Zach's voice cracked. "Don't be polite. Just tell me you're glad. Tell me you wanted this. Tell me the truth for once." "The truth? I don't feel anything about you anymore. Not hate, not satisfaction, nothing. You're just someone who used to matter. I destroyed us. No, you destroyed you. I'm fine, better than fine. I'm building an empire while you're working day labor and living in shelters. So if you're looking for forgiveness or closure or whatever, you won't find it here. She left before he could respond. Adriel was waiting in the parking lot. She hadn't called him, but he'd somehow known she'd need someone. They sat in his car in silence for 20 minutes before Pamela finally spoke. I feel like a monster. Why? Because his mother just died, and all I could think was, one less person who'll defend him. That doesn't make you a monster. That makes you human. I should feel something. You feel what you feel. There's no should about it. He turned to face her. You want my opinion? Please. I think you've spent 9 months becoming someone new, someone stronger, and the emotions you're supposed to feel belong to the old version of you, the one who believed she needed to be kind to people who destroyed her. But that woman died in a basement. The woman you are now doesn't owe him anything. Not forgiveness, not grief, not a single emotion. Pamela looked at him. How do you always know what to say? I don't. I just say what I think is true and hope it helps. That night, Pamela did something she hadn't done since the Rosewood Hotel. She called Adriel and asked him to come over. Not for business, not for planning, just to be there. He arrived with Thai food and a bottle of wine. They sat on her couch, not touching, just existing in the same space. Tell me about your mother, Pamela said. Adriel smiled. She's a force of nature. 65 years old, still working 16-hour days running her investment firm. She escaped my father with nothing and built everything. Every dollar she makes is a middle finger to the man who tried to break her. Does she know about me? She does. What does she think? She thinks you remind her of herself at 30, and she hopes I'm smart enough not to screw this up. Are you? I'm trying. They talked until 2 in the morning, about everything. Childhoods and dreams and failures. Adriel told her about his brief marriage that ended because he was building hotels instead of a relationship. Pamela told him about the year before Zach hit her, when he'd just controlled her with words instead of fists. I kept thinking it was my fault, she admitted, that if I was better, quieter, more understanding, he'd stop. It was never your fault. I know that now, but for so long I believed it. At 3 a.m., Adriel stood to leave. Pamela walked him to the door. Thank you, she said. For what? For being here, for not pushing, for just existing in my life without demanding anything. Pamela, his voice was serious. I need to tell you something, and it's going to complicate everything, but I can't keep it inside anymore. Her heart stopped. What? I'm in love with you. Not falling, not getting there. I'm completely, irrevocably in love with you. I love how you see buildings. I love your fury. I love that you refuse to be anything other than exactly who you are. I love watching you build an empire out of pain. He took a breath. And I need you to know that, because I can't keep pretending this is just business or friendship or partnership. But I also need you to know that nothing changes unless you want it to. We can keep being partners. I'll never mention this again. I just need you to know the truth. Pamela stared at him. Her chest was tight. Her hands were shaking. Every instinct screamed to run, to protect herself, to slam the door and never open it again. Instead, she whispered, I don't know if I can love anyone. I'm not asking you to. I'm just telling you how I feel. What if I never feel the same? Then you never feel the same. And I'll be okay. He smiled sadly. I'd rather be your business partner for the rest of my life than lose you completely. He left, and Pamela stood in her doorway watching him walk away. Again. Always walking away when she needed him to. Always giving her space. Always waiting. She closed the door and leaned against it, sliding down to the floor. Miguel called 5 minutes later. You okay? How did you know? Father's intuition. What happened? Adriel told me he's in love with me. Silence. Then, And how do you feel about that? Terrified. Of him or of yourself? Both. What if I let him in and he becomes Zach? Mija, that billionaire has spent 9 months proving he's nothing like Zach. At some point, you have to decide if you're going to let fear run your life or if you're going to be brave. I don't know how to be brave about this. Yes, you do. You've been brave about everything else. This is just one more thing. He paused. But here's what I know. That man loves you, really loves you. The kind of love that asks for nothing and gives everything. And that's rare. So rare that most people spend their whole lives looking for it and never find it. You found it, and now you have to decide what you're going to do with it. After hanging up, Pamela sat on her floor until sunrise, thinking about Adriel, about Zach, about the woman she'd been and the woman she was becoming. She thought about trust and risk, and the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, not all men were dangers. At 7 a.m., she texted Adriel, "I need more time." His response came immediately, "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." And somehow, that made everything worse, because if he'd given up, if he'd walked away, if he'd gotten tired of waiting, she could use it as proof that all men eventually hurt you. But he didn't. He stayed, patient and present and impossible to dismiss, which meant she had to face the scariest question of all. What if she was wrong about everything? What if some men were actually safe? Chapter 7. The Confession. Austin happened 3 months after Miami. The property was a 1920s textile mill, 4 stories of exposed brick, original wood beams, massive windows overlooking the river. Perfect bones for what Pamela was envisioning. Boutique hotel with an emphasis on local art, every suite showcasing a different Texas artist. She and Adriel flew down for a week of planning. Separate hotel rooms, professional boundaries carefully maintained. They'd fallen back into their working rhythm, both pretending his confession had never happened. But it had, and the words hung between them like smoke. On the 3rd day, reviewing architectural plans in the mill's future lobby, Adriel suddenly asked, "Have you thought about what I said?" Pamela's pen stopped moving. "Which part?" "The part where I told you I love you. Every day." "And?" She set down her pen and faced him. "And I'm still terrified, and I still don't know if I can feel what you're feeling. And I wish you'd never said anything because it was easier when we were just partners." "I'm sorry." "No, you're not." He smiled. "You're right, I'm not. Because I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of editing every word I say around you. I'm tired of watching you build walls when all I want to do is know you. You do know me. I know the professional version, the business partner version, but I don't know who you are at 3 in the morning when you can't sleep. I don't know what makes you laugh until you can't breathe. I don't know what you dream about when you let yourself dream. Those things are private. They shouldn't be, not between people who care about each other. We're business partners. We're friends who are building hotels together while pretending we don't feel more than that." His voice was frustrated now, an edge she'd never heard before. "And I'm done pretending. So what do you want from me? I want you to take a risk. I want you to let me take you to dinner. A real dinner, not a business meeting. I want you to spend one evening not thinking about what could go wrong, just seeing what could go right. And if nothing goes right, then we had dinner and we go back to being partners. But Pamela, I need to know if there's any possibility, because if there's not, I need to start accepting that. I need to start moving on." The words hit her like cold water. Moving on? I can't be in love with someone who will never love me back. It's not sustainable. It's not fair to either of us. He ran his hand through his hair. I don't want to move on, but I also can't live in limbo forever. So you're giving me an ultimatum. I'm telling you the truth. I'll always be your business partner. That will never change, but I can't keep hoping for something more if there's no chance of it happening. That night, Pamela couldn't sleep. She stood on her hotel balcony overlooking the Austin skyline, thinking about everything Adriel had said, about risk and truth, and the possibility that she was sabotaging something real because she was afraid. Her phone rang. "Miguel, why are you calling at midnight?" "Because I know you're awake and spiraling." His voice was gentle. "What happened?" She told him everything, about Adriel's frustration, about the ultimatum that wasn't quite an ultimatum, about how she felt like she was standing at a cliff's edge, being asked to jump. "So jump," Miguel said simply. "What if I fall?" "Then you fall, and you survive, just like you survived everything else." He paused. "Mija, I've watched you build 2 hotels in less than a year. I've watched you transform from a broken woman in a basement to someone who commands rooms and creates beauty. You've proven you can survive anything, so why are you letting fear of one man control you? Because if I trust him and I'm wrong, then you'll handle it. But what if you're right? What if he's exactly what he appears to be? What if you're about to throw away something real because you're too afraid to find out?" After hanging up, Pamela made a decision. The next morning she met Adriel at the construction site. "Dinner tonight, 7 p.m, and I'll actually show up this time." His face transformed. "You're sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." He picked her up at 7 exactly. They went to a small restaurant by the river, nothing fancy, just good food and quiet conversation. Pamela waited for the panic attack, for the moment when her body would scream danger and she'd have to run. It never came. Instead, they talked for 3 hours, about Austin, about their childhoods, about the hotels they were building and the ones they dreamed of building. Adriel told her about his father's funeral, how he'd stood at the grave feeling nothing but relief. Pamela told him about the first time Zach hit her, how she'd made excuses for days before admitting what happened. "Did you tell anyone?" Adriel asked. "No, I was ashamed, thought it was my fault." "It wasn't. I know that now, but it took a broken leg and a basement to learn it." After dinner, they walked along the river. The Austin night was perfect. Warm breeze, stars overhead, the city glowing behind them. "Can I ask you something?" Adriel said. "Haven't you been asking me things all night?" He smiled. "One more. Why did you finally say yes to dinner?" Pamela thought about it. "Because I realized I was more afraid of regret than I was of risk. If I said no and spent the rest of my life wondering what could have been, I'd never forgive myself. And now that we've had dinner, now I'm still terrified, but also curious." "About what?" "About what happens next." Adriel stopped walking. They were on a bridge overlooking the water, Austin sprawled out around them. "What do you want to happen next?" Pamela's heart was pounding. This was the moment, the cliff's edge, the choice that would change everything. "I want you to kiss me." "Are you sure?" "No, but do it anyway before I change my mind." He kissed her, gentle at first, testing, making sure, then deeper when she didn't pull away, his hands on her face, her hands gripping his shirt, the world narrowing to just this moment. When they broke apart, Pamela was shaking. "You okay?" Adriel asked. "I don't know, I think so. I need a minute." She walked to the edge of the bridge, breathing hard, her mind racing. Adriel gave her space, waiting. After 5 minutes, she turned back. "Okay." "Okay what?" "Okay, I didn't hate that. Okay, I want to try this. Okay, I'm still terrified, but I'm willing to see where this goes." She took a breath. "But I need you to understand something. I'm going to be difficult. I'm going to panic. I'm going to push you away when you get too close. And you have to be patient with that. I can do that. Can you? Because it's going to be hard. I'm damaged in ways I'm still discovering." "You're not damaged. You're healing. There's a difference." He walked back to her. "And yes, I can be patient. Because you're worth it." They walked back to the hotel, holding hands. At her door, Adriel kissed her again. Softer this time. A promise instead of a question. "Good night, Pamela." "Stay." He froze. "What?" Stay, not for sex, just stay. I don't want to be alone tonight. So he stayed. They lay on her bed, fully clothed, talking until 3 in the morning, about everything and nothing. Adriel fell asleep first, his hand still holding hers. Pamela watched him sleep and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. The next morning changed everything. Pamela woke up to her phone ringing. Miguel, voice tight. "We have a problem. Hostile takeover attempt. Someone's trying to break up the Harrington Guzman collection. They found a loophole in your partnership agreement. You need to get back here immediately." They flew home that afternoon. By the time they landed, the situation was clear. An investment group called Titan Capital was arguing that Pamela and Adriel's partnership was invalid because Pamela was still legally married to Zach. The claim was that she had divided loyalty, that she couldn't fully commit to the business while legally tied to someone else. It was bullshit, but it was legally complicated bullshit. Pamela's attorney laid it out. "They're forcing a choice. Either you divorce Zach immediately and sign documents committing fully to the partnership, or they can force dissolution and sale of the entire collection. You have 72 hours. "This is extortion," Adriel said. "It's legal extortion. The partnership agreement has a clause requiring both partners to be fully committed with no conflicting interests. They're arguing Pamela's marriage creates that conflict." After the attorney left, Pamela and Adriel sat in silence. "I can divorce him," Pamela said. "It's been over for a year anyway. This shouldn't be how you make that decision." "But it is." She looked at him. "And honestly, maybe it's time. Maybe I've been holding on to the marriage as some kind of shield, a way to keep everyone at arm's length, including me, especially you." Adriel took her hand. "Whatever you decide, I support it. But don't do this because of the business. Do it because it's what you want." Pamela thought about it all night. About Zach, about the woman she'd been when she married him, about the empire she'd built since leaving him, about Adriel and the terrifying possibility of trusting someone again. The next morning she called her attorney. "File the divorce papers, immediately." "You're sure?" "Completely." The papers were filed by noon. Zach was served by dinner. He called 50 times. She blocked every number. Finally, he showed up at her building. Security wouldn't let him in, so he stood outside screaming up at her windows. "Pamela, please, don't do this. We can fix this. I've changed. I'm getting therapy. Please." She watched from her window, feeling nothing. Adriel stood beside her. "He's going to fight the divorce," Adriel said. "Let him. I have the best lawyers money can buy." She turned from the window. "And I'm done letting him have any power over my life." The 72 hours ran out. Pamela signed the commitment documents. The takeover attempt was defeated. The Harrington Guzman collection was secure. But something had shifted. Standing in the attorney's office signing papers that severed her last legal tie to Zach, Pamela felt a weight lift that she didn't know she'd been carrying. "I'm free," she whispered. Adriel squeezed her hand. "You've been free for a year. Now it's just official." They walked out of the attorney's office into brilliant sunshine. Pamela stopped on the sidewalk, face tilted toward the sky. "What now?" Adriel asked. She turned to him. This man who'd waited, who'd been patient, who'd proven over and over that not all men were dangerous. "Now we build more hotels. Now I finish becoming whoever I'm supposed to be. Now I figure out how to trust you completely." She kissed him. Right there on the sidewalk, not caring who saw. "Now I choose something for myself instead of letting fear choose for me." "And what are you choosing?" "You, us. Whatever this becomes, I'm choosing it." Adriel kissed her back and Pamela felt something crack open in her chest, not breaking, opening, making room for something she'd thought was impossible. "I love you," he said against her lips. She couldn't say it back yet. The words stuck in her throat, years of trauma holding them hostage. But she would, eventually, when she was ready. For now, choosing him was enough. Chapter 8. The almost 6 months after Austin, Pamela and Adriel were opening their 4th hotel, Chicago, a converted Art Deco bank building, Marble columns, vaulted ceilings, the original vault transformed into a cocktail lounge. It was their most ambitious project yet, and the opening gala was spectacular. But something was wrong. Pamela felt it in the way Adriel had been distant for weeks, still professional, still present, but the warmth had cooled. The easy affection had become careful. They were sleeping together now, sharing a bed most nights, but he never said he loved her anymore. She'd waited too long to say it back, and now the moment had passed. The gala was perfect. Celebrities, politicians, press. The hotel was already fully booked for a year. Another success, another triumph. But when Pamela looked for Adriel in the crowd, his smile didn't reach his eyes. After midnight, when most guests had left, she found him on the rooftop. "We need to talk," she said. "I know. You've been different. Distant." Adriel turned to face her. In the city lights, he looked tired, older than his years. "I'm exhausted, Pamela." "From the project? From us?" He took a breath. "I love you. I've loved you for over a year. And you still can't say it back. You still look at me sometimes like I'm gonna hurt you. You still flinch when I reach for you unexpectedly, and I'm trying to be patient, but I'm drowning. I'm trying. I know you are, and I know it's hard. I know you've been through trauma, but I can't be the only one fighting for this relationship. I can't love you enough for both of us." Pamela felt panic rising. "You're leaving me." "No. I'm asking you to meet me halfway, because right now I'm giving everything and you're giving just enough to keep me hoping, and I can't live like that anymore." "What do you want from me?" "I want you to let me all the way in. I want you to stop treating our relationship like a business arrangement where you're constantly measuring risk versus reward. I want you to trust me completely." His voice cracked. "I want you to love me back." "I do." "Then say it. 3 words. Say them like you mean them." Pamela opened her mouth. The words were right there. She felt them in her chest, pressing against her ribs, demanding to be spoken. But they wouldn't come. Years of Zach, years of being told she was worthless, years of learning that love was control, and kindness was manipulation, and trust was weakness. All of it crashed down on her at once, and the words died in her throat. Adriel saw it on her face, the failure, the inability. "I can't keep doing this," he whispered. "I'm sorry, but I can't." "So what, you're walking away after everything?" "I'm not walking away. I'll always be your business partner. But I need space from the relationship part. I need to stop hoping you'll eventually love me the way I love you." Pamela felt like she was drowning. "Please, give me more time." "I've given you a year. How much more time do you need?" "I don't know. But I'm trying. Doesn't that count for anything?" "It counts for everything. But trying isn't the same as succeeding, and I'm losing myself in the process of waiting for you." They stood on that rooftop, their 4th hotel glowing below them, their empire spreading out in every direction. Everything they'd built together, everything they could still build. But none of it mattered if Pamela couldn't say 3 words. "I'm scared," she finally admitted. "I'm scared if I say it. If I admit how much you mean to me, you'll use it against me. You'll take that vulnerability and destroy me with it." "I would never." "My brain knows that. But my body doesn't, and I don't know how to fix it." Adriel moved closer. They stood inches apart, the city spread below them. "Can I tell you what I think?" "Please." "I think you're so used to surviving that you've forgotten how to live. I think you've built walls so high that you can't see over them anymore. And I think if you don't tear those walls down soon, you're going to spend your life building hotels and making money and being successful while never letting anyone actually know you." "That sounds terrible." "It is terrible, but it's also safe, and I think that's what you're choosing. Safety over love." Pamela's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to choose that." "Then don't. Kiss me right now and mean it. Look at me and see a future instead of a risk. Say the words that have been trapped in your throat for 6 months." She looked at him, this man who'd been nothing but patient, who'd invested everything in her success, who'd proven over and over that he was safe. She felt the words rising again, felt them pressing against her teeth. She started. Her phone rang. Miguel. She almost ignored it. But something in her gut said to answer. Dad? It's Zach. He's in the hospital. Overdose. They don't think he'll make it. The rooftop spun. What? Someone found him in an alley. Pills and alcohol. He left a note. It says your name. Pamela hung up. Adriel was watching her face. What happened? Zach tried to kill himself. Left a note with my name on it. She felt numb. I have to go. I'll come with you. No, I need to do this alone. She left him standing on that rooftop. Drove to the hospital in a daze. Miguel was already there. Is he alive? She asked. Barely. They pumped his stomach. Touch and go. The note? Miguel handed it over. Pamela's hands shook as she read, Pamela, I destroyed the best thing in my life. I destroyed you. I destroyed us. I deserve everything that happened, but I can't live with what I did. I can't live with the man I became. I'm sorry for everything. You were right to leave. You were right to build your empire without me. I hope you find happiness. I hope Adriel treats you better than I did. I hope you forget I ever existed. Zach. Pamela read it 3 times, felt nothing, then everything, then nothing again. Do you want to see him? Miguel asked. Why would I? Closure, maybe. I don't need closure from him. I need closure from myself. But she went in anyway. Zach looked dead already. Tubes and machines. Face grey. Nothing left of the man who'd once promised to love her forever. She stood by his bed, hands in her pockets, and spoke to his unconscious form. You don't get to do this. You don't get to make me feel guilty. You don't get to take the coward's way out and leave me wondering if I drove you to it. Her voice was hard. You did this to yourself. You chose violence. You chose control. You chose to throw me downstairs instead of being a decent human being. And now you choose this. But you don't get to make it my fault. She turned to leave. Behind her, Zach's eyes fluttered open. Pam? She froze. His voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry. I know. I became my father, the one thing I swore I'd never do. Yes. Can you forgive me? Pamela looked at this broken man, this person who'd once been her whole world, this stranger who'd tried to destroy her. No. But I can let go of hating you. That's all I have to give. She left. Miguel walked her to her car. You okay? I don't know. Ask me in a year. She drove back to the hotel. The gala was over. Staff was cleaning up. Adriel was still on the rooftop, standing exactly where she'd left him. Is he alive? Adriel asked. Yes. Are you okay? No. She walked to the edge of the roof, looked out at Chicago spreading in all directions, thought about Zach dying in a hospital bed, about Adriel waiting on a rooftop, about a year of building hotels while avoiding the one thing that mattered. I love you? The words came out quiet, almost lost in the city noise. Adriel went completely still. What? I love you. Louder this time. I love how patient you've been. I love how you see potential in destroyed buildings. I love that you've never once treated me like I owe you anything. I love your laugh. I love how you argue with me about design choices. I love that you show up even when I push you away. Tears were streaming down her face now. I love you and I'm terrified, and I'm sorry it took me so long to say it, but I love you and I don't want to lose you, and please don't give up on me. Adriel crossed the rooftop in 3 strides, pulled her into his arms, kissed her like she was oxygen and he was drowning. Say it again, he whispered against her lips. I love you. Again. I love you. One more time. I love you, Adriel Harrington. I love you and I choose you, and I'm done being afraid. He kissed her until neither of them could breathe, until the city disappeared and there was only them. I thought I'd lost you, he said. You almost did. But then I realized something. What? That regret is worse than risk. That safety is lonelier than vulnerability. that I'd rather try and fail with you than succeed at anything else without you. They stayed on that rooftop until dawn, talking, kissing, planning futures that involved more hotels and shared homes and all the terrifying, beautiful possibilities that came with choosing love over fear. When the sun rose over Chicago, Pamela finally felt something she'd thought was gone forever. Hope. Not the bitter hope of revenge, not the empty hope of survival, but the genuine hope that maybe, just maybe, she could build a life that wasn't defined by what had been done to her, but by what she chose to create. Chapter 9. The Crisis. 3 months after Chicago, everything fell apart. It started with a phone call at 6 in the morning. Adriel's voice was tight, controlled in that way that meant panic was underneath. "Turn on the news, Channel 7. Pamela fumbled for the remote. The news anchor's face was serious. "Breaking news this morning. Billionaire hotel developer Adriel Harrington is facing allegations of financial misconduct. Documents leaked to this station suggest that Harrington may have used funds from his hotel empire to pay off former business partners, potentially constituting fraud. We reached out to Harrington Hotels for comment, but have received no response." The screen showed photos of Adriel, of their hotels, of financial documents that looked damning. "This is bullshit," Pamela said into the phone. "Isn't it?" "It's complicated." Her blood went cold. "Adriel, let me come over. I'll explain everything." He arrived 30 minutes later, looking like he hadn't slept. Pamela made coffee with shaking hands while he laid it out. 7 years ago, before I met you, I had a business partner, Marcus Webb. We were developing a property in San Francisco when he tried to embezzle from the project. I caught him, bought him out to avoid scandal, made him sign an NDA, and paid him to disappear quietly. It was all legal, but it looked suspicious without context. Someone leaked the documents now to make it look like I paid him off to hide fraud. Who would do that? I have suspicions. Titan Capital, the group that tried to break up our partnership last year. They failed then, so now they're trying to destroy my reputation, to devalue our properties. Pamela's mind raced. If your reputation crashes, investors will pull out. And our hotels lose value. They can buy us out cheap, break up the collection, and flip the properties for profit. His jaw was tight. I should have told you about Marcus when we partnered. But I thought it was handled. I thought it was over. Is there anything else you haven't told me? No, I swear. But doubt had crept in. That familiar voice from the basement. Men lie, men manipulate. You can't trust anyone. By noon, the story was everywhere. Financial news networks, business websites, social media. Adriel Harrington's reputation was being destroyed in real time. By afternoon, 2 investors in their Miami property had called emergency meetings. By evening, one had pulled out entirely. Miguel came over that night. This is coordinated, professional. Someone with resources is targeting Adriel. Can we fight it? His lawyers are working on it. But proving you didn't commit fraud is harder than proving you did. And in the court of public opinion, he's already losing. Pamela called Adriel. He was at his office, surrounded by attorneys. How bad is it? She asked. Bad. 3 more investors want out. If this continues, we could lose everything. What do you need from me? Distance. If you publicly separate from me, it protects your half of the properties. You could salvage something from this. Absolutely not. Pamela, be smart. Don't let my mess destroy what you've built. What we've built, together. And I'm not abandoning you now. But over the next week, the situation deteriorated. More investors pulled out. Banks started questioning loans. The press dug deeper, finding other transactions that looked questionable without context. Adriel's hotel chain saw reservations drop. Their properties, the beautiful hotels they'd built together, were being tainted by association. 2 weeks after the story broke, Adriel's attorney delivered the worst news. If we can't stop the bleeding, bankruptcy is possible. All properties would be liquidated, including the Harrington Guzman collection. Pamela stood in the ruins of their first hotel, the converted theater where it all started, and wanted to scream. They'd built 4 spectacular properties. They had 3 more in development, an empire rising, and it was all crumbling because someone wanted to profit from destruction. "We need to find out who's behind this," she told Miguel. "I'm already working on it." 3 days later, her father came back with answers. Titan Capital is a shell company, but I dug deeper. The real owner is Walter Harrington. Who? Adriel's uncle, his father's brother. When Adriel inherited the hotel business at 25, Walter sued for control, claimed his brother had promised him the company. The courts sided with Adriel. Walter's been trying to destroy him ever since. Pamela felt rage building. Family. The worst kind of enemy. They know all your secrets. She called Adriel. "It's your uncle, Walter. He's behind everything." Silence. Then, "Of course it is. He's been waiting for an opening for 13 years. So we destroy him back." "It's not that simple. He has resources. Connections. He's spent over a decade building a case to prove I'm unworthy of my father's legacy. Then we prove him wrong, publicly, definitively." But Walter was smart. Every day brought new allegations, old business deals examined under microscopes, former employees suddenly remembering suspicious activities. None of it was true, but truth didn't matter when the lies were everywhere. 1 month after the crisis started, Adriel sat in Pamela's loft and said the words she'd been dreading. "I need to step back from the partnership. No. If I leave, if I sell my share to you, the properties are protected. You can rebuild without my reputation dragging you down." I said no. "Pamela, be reasonable." "I'm being exactly reasonable. We built this together. We're fighting this together. And we're winning together." She grabbed his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. "You don't get to protect me by leaving. You don't get to make that choice for me. I'm losing everything. My reputation, my company, my hotels, everything I built is burning down. Then we'll rebuild. From ashes, remember? That's what we do." "Why? Why would you risk everything you've built for me?" "Because I love you, you idiot. Because you spent a year teaching me that not all men destroy things. Because I'm not letting your uncle win. Pick a reason." Adriel pulled her close, buried his face in her neck. She felt him shaking. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway." Miguel called an emergency meeting the next day. Pamela, Adriel, lawyers, accountants, and Miguel's most trusted people. "Here's what we know," Miguel said. "Walter Harrington has spent 13 years and approximately $15 million trying to destroy his nephew. He's used shell companies, paid off journalists, intimidated witnesses. He's patient and he's ruthless. But he made one mistake." "What?" Adriel asked. "He involved my daughter, and I don't let people destroy my daughter." Over the next 2 weeks, Miguel Guzman demonstrated exactly why people feared him. He had connections Adriel's lawyers couldn't touch. People who owed him favors, people who knew things. They found the paper trail, the payments Walter had made to journalists, the NDAs he'd paid former employees to violate, the shell companies he'd used to short-sell Harrington Hotel stock before each scandal broke. "It's all financial manipulation," Miguel's forensic accountant explained. He wasn't trying to prove Adriel committed fraud. He was committing fraud himself by manipulating stock prices through false information. "That's securities fraud," Adriel's attorney said. "Federal crime." "Can we prove it?" Pamela asked. "With what Miguel found?" "Absolutely." They went to the FBI, presented everything, watched as federal agents started an investigation into Walter Harrington and Titan Capital. The tables turned overnight. Suddenly, Adriel wasn't the story. Walter was. His empire, built on manipulation and revenge, was being torn apart by federal investigators. Companies distanced themselves. Investors fled. The man who'd tried to destroy his nephew was destroying himself. But the damage to Adriel's reputation remained. Even with Walter exposed, people still questioned every past deal. Trust, once broken, was hard to rebuild. "We need to go public," Pamela decided. "Press conference. We lay out everything. Your side of the story, the truth about Marcus Webb, the truth about Walter. We take control of the narrative. That's risky, Adriel's publicist warned. If it goes wrong, you'll make things worse. Then we make sure it doesn't go wrong. The press conference was held at their first hotel. Pamela stood beside Adriel at the podium, facing dozens of cameras and reporters. She wore a red dress that screamed confidence. Adriel wore the same suit from their first partnership meeting. He spoke first, laid out every detail of the Marcus Webb situation, explained why he'd paid him off quietly instead of pursuing legal action, admitted it looked bad, but that everything had been reviewed by attorneys and was completely legal. Then Pamela spoke. When I met Adriel Harrington, I was recovering from domestic violence. I had no business experience, no hotel training, no reason to be trusted with anything, but he saw potential in me anyway. He offered me 50-50 ownership in a hotel project, not 49%, not a token stake, true partnership, equal power. I thought he was crazy. She paused, looking at Adriel. I was wrong. He wasn't crazy. He was just decent. And for some reason, in our world, decency looks suspicious. She faced the cameras. Adriel's uncle spent 13 years trying to destroy him out of jealousy and greed. He manipulated stock prices. He paid people to lie. He committed actual crimes to make it look like Adriel was criminal. Why? Because Adriel inherited a business that Walter thought should be his. That's it. That's the whole story. Not fraud, not corruption, just one bitter man's revenge. She pulled out documents. These are signed statements from every investor in the Harrington Guzman collection, every contractor we've used, every employee, all of them confirming that Adriel Harrington has never asked them to do anything illegal, unethical, or even questionable, all of them standing behind him. She looked directly into the main camera. So here's my statement. I'm Pamela Guzman. I own 50% of 4 luxury hotels with Adriel Harrington. We're developing 3 more. And I'm not walking away because some bitter old man tried to destroy something beautiful. Neither is he. We're building. That's what we do. We take broken things and make them extraordinary. And no amount of lies will stop us. The room erupted in questions. But Pamela walked off the stage, pulling Adriel with her. In the hotel's back office, away from cameras, he kissed her hard. That was incredible. That was necessary. She smiled. Now let's go build more hotels and prove them all wrong. Over the next month, the FBI's investigation into Walter progressed. Federal charges were filed. More evidence emerged. Walter Harrington was arrested in front of his mansion, cameras capturing every moment. Adriel's reputation slowly rebuilt. Investors came back. Reservations increased. The hotels weren't just surviving, they were thriving. Because people loved a comeback story and a love story, and theirs was both. 3 months after the crisis started, they broke ground on their 5th property. A 1940s airplane hangar in Denver being converted to a hotel with aviation-themed suites. At the groundbreaking ceremony, Adriel pulled Pamela aside. I need to ask you something. If it's about the lobby design, I'm not changing it. It's not about design. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. It's about forever. Pamela stared at the ring. At this man who'd been patient when she was broken, who'd believed in her when she didn't believe in herself, who'd survived his uncle's attack and come out stronger. Are you asking? Will you marry me? Not because we're business partners, not because we survived trauma together, but because I love you and I want to spend my life building things with you. Hotels, home, family, whatever comes next. Pamela looked at the ring, at Adriel, at the construction site behind them, where they were building something new from nothing. A year ago, she would have said no, would have protected herself, would have chosen safety over risk. But she wasn't that woman anymore. Yes. He kissed her there, covered in construction dust, surrounded by workers who cheered. And for the first time in her entire life, Pamela felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, with exactly who she was supposed to be with, building exactly what she was supposed to build, not running from the past, not just surviving the present, but creating a future worth living. Chapter 10. The Choice. The wedding was supposed to be small, just family and close friends, a quiet ceremony, nothing flashy. That lasted exactly 2 weeks of planning before it became clear that small wasn't possible. Pamela and Adriel had built an empire, and everyone wanted to be there when they made it official, so they compromised. Private ceremony for family, reception at their crown jewel, the Maldives resort they'd opened 6 months earlier. The property was spectacular. 40 overwater villas, private beaches, the kind of place people proposed and honeymooned and celebrated life. Perfect for a wedding that had taken 3 years to happen. The morning of the ceremony, Pamela stood in her villa looking at herself in the mirror. Simple white dress, bare feet, her hair down in loose waves. She looked nothing like the woman who'd been locked in a basement. Nothing like the woman who'd sworn she'd never trust a man again. She looked happy. Rosa knocked and entered. "You ready, Mika?" "I think so. Ask me again in 10 minutes. Her stepmother laughed and hugged her. "Your father wants to see you before the ceremony." Miguel was on the beach wearing a linen suit, looking at the ocean. When he saw Pamela, his eyes got wet. "Don't you dare cry," Pamela warned. "You'll make me cry." Too late. He pulled her into a hug. "I'm so proud of you." "For what? Marrying a billionaire?" "For surviving, for fighting, for building something incredible out of pain, for choosing to trust again even when everything told you not to." He pulled back, holding her shoulders. "When I found you in that basement, I thought I might lose you, and then I watched you refuse to give up, refuse to be broken, refuse to let what happened define you. I had help. You had yourself. Everything else was just support for what you already had inside." The ceremony was at sunset. 20 people, Miguel and Rosa, Adriel's mother, a handful of friends who'd been there through everything. The officiant kept it simple. When Adriel said his vows, his voice was steady. 3 years ago, I saw someone being carried into a hospital. I didn't know her, but I saw her fighting to stay conscious, fighting to survive, and something in me recognized something in her. Strength, fury, refusal to give up. I thought, that's someone worth knowing. Turns out she's someone worth loving, someone worth building an empire with, someone worth waiting 3 years to marry. He smiled. "Pamela, you taught me that love isn't about saving someone. It's about standing beside them while they save themselves. Thank you for letting me stand beside you." Pamela's vows were harder, not because she didn't know what to say, but because saying it out loud made it real. "I didn't trust you. For a year, I waited for you to become someone else, someone dangerous, someone who would use my vulnerability against me, and you never did. You just kept showing up, kept being patient, kept proving that not all men destroy things." Her voice cracked. "You taught me that I deserved more than survival, that I deserved joy and partnership and love. You taught me that strength isn't about walls. It's about having the courage to let someone in. So I'm choosing you. Every day, for the rest of my life, I'm choosing you." When the officiant said, "You may kiss," Adriel pulled her close and whispered, "I love you. I love you too." The kiss felt like a promise, like a beginning, like everything they'd fought for crystallizing into one perfect moment. The reception was on the beach. String lights, live music, food from the resort's restaurant, nothing corporate or stuffy, just celebration. Adriel's mother cornered Pamela during dinner. "I need to tell you something." "That sounds ominous," she smiled. "When Adriel first told me about you, he said he'd met someone who reminded him of me, someone who'd survived violence and came out fighting. I didn't know if that was good or bad, if maybe he was trying to fix something through you that he couldn't fix for me." "Was he?" "No, he was just recognizing strength when he saw it." She squeezed Pamela's hand. "You saved my son, not from danger, from becoming someone who only knew how to work, someone who forgot how to live. You reminded him what matters." He saved me too. No, sweetheart. You saved yourself. He just had the sense to get out of your way while you did it. Later, Pamela found Adriel on the private beach, away from the party. He was looking at the ocean, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "Hiding from our own wedding?" she asked. "Just wanted a moment alone with my wife." He handed her a glass. "That feels weird to say." "Good weird or bad weird?" "Best weird." He touched his glass to hers. "To us, to 3 years of building, to whatever comes next." They drank, and Pamela looked out at the perfect water, the perfect sky, the perfect resort they'd created together. "Do you ever think about that night?" Adriel asked. "The hospital?" "Sometimes. Less than I used to." "I think about it all the time. About how close I came to just walking away, to thinking, not my problem, not my business." "Why didn't you?" "Because I'd spent my whole childhood watching people walk away from my mother, and I promised myself I'd never be one of those people." He turned to face her. "Best decision I ever made. Even when I was impossible. Especially then. Impossible women are the only ones worth knowing." They walked back to the party hand in hand. Friends congratulated them. Staff brought food and drinks. Music played. The night was perfect. Around midnight, Miguel pulled Pamela aside one more time. "There's something you should know. Zach died." Pamela went still. "When?" 2 weeks ago. Liver failure. The hospital tried to call, but you'd blocked all those numbers. His attorney found me. The funeral was last week." "How do you feel about that?" Adriel appeared beside her, always present when she needed him. Pamela thought about it. Thought about Zach. About the man he'd been when they married. About the monster he'd become. About his final overdose attempt that failed. About years of self-destruction that finally caught up. "I feel nothing," she said honestly. "He stopped being real to me a long time ago. He became just a lesson I learned." "What lesson?" Miguel asked. "That some people are warnings. Not about what I did wrong, but about what I won't tolerate ever again." She looked at Adriel. "And that some people are promises. Proof that good things exist if you're brave enough to trust them." They went back to the reception. Pamela danced with her father, with Adriel's mother, with friends who'd supported her through everything, and finally, with Adriel. "Happy?" he asked, holding her close as the music played. "Terrified, but in a good way." "Of what?" "That this is real, that I get to keep this, that someone won't take it away." Adriel kissed her forehead. "No one's taking anything. We built this, together. It's ours." The party wound down around 2 in the morning. Guests filtered back to their villas. Staff cleaned up. Pamela and Adriel walked along the beach, the Maldives night perfect and still around them. "You know what's wild?" Pamela said. 3 years ago I was in a basement thinking my life was over. Now I'm walking on a beach in the Maldives on my wedding night. Owner of 6 hotels, married to a man I actually love and trust. How did that happen? You made it happen. You chose to survive, to heal, to build, to trust again. All I did was show up. You did more than show up. Maybe, but you did the hard part. They reached their private villa. Inside, rose petals on the bed, champagne waiting. All the romance money could buy, but what mattered was simpler. 2 people who'd both survived trauma and found each other. 2 people who'd built an empire brick by brick. 2 people who'd proven that destruction doesn't have to be the end of the story. "One more thing," Adriel said. He handed her an envelope. "What is this?" "Open it." Inside were architectural plans, another property, a castle in Scotland that had been abandoned for 50 years. "Our 7th hotel," Adriel explained. "I bought it last month. Was going to wait to tell you, but tonight feels right. What do you think?" Pamela looked at the plans, at this man who understood her need to build, who knew that creating was how she healed, who kept giving her blank canvases to transform. "I think we should start on it next month." "Really? No honeymoon?" "The honeymoon is the project. building something together. That's our love language. He kissed her. God, I love you. I love you too. They spent their wedding night planning their next hotel, looking at blueprints, discussing designs, making lists of what would work and what wouldn't. Most couples would find it strange, but for them, it was perfect. Because their relationship wasn't built on candlelit dinners or romantic gestures. It was built on partnership, on trust, on the slow, patient work of creating something beautiful from nothing. Around 4 in the morning, they finally put away the plans and lay in bed, exhausted and happy. "Did you ever think it would end like this?" Pamela asked. "When I threw your card away in that hospital room?" "I hoped, but I didn't know." He pulled her closer. "I just knew I had to try. Had to show you that not every ending has to be tragic. This isn't an ending. It's a beginning. Best kind." Pamela closed her eyes, Adriel's arms around her, the ocean outside their window. She thought about the woman she'd been, the woman locked in a basement, certain her life was over. She thought about that woman making a phone call to her father, about the empire of revenge she'd planned. But revenge had become something else, not destruction, creation. She'd built hotels instead of burning down the world. She'd chosen trust instead of safety. She'd let someone love her instead of protecting herself from ever being hurt again. And somehow, impossibly, it had worked. "Adriel?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For standing in that hospital hallway. For refusing to leave. For giving me chances when I didn't deserve them. For teaching me that some men actually mean what they say. You deserved all of it. You just didn't know it yet. I know it now." Good. Sleep pulled at her. But before she went under, Pamela had one last thought. Somewhere in the city where this all started, there was an empty basement where she'd once been locked, where she'd once called her father and asked for destruction. That basement was still there, but the woman who'd been trapped in it was gone. In her place was someone new, someone who'd survived, who'd fought, who'd built an empire not of revenge, but of resilience. Someone who'd proven that the best response to being broken wasn't breaking others. It was becoming unbreakable. And as Pamela drifted into sleep in her husband's arms, in the resort they'd built together, she finally let go of the last piece of that basement. She let go of the rage, the fear, the certainty that all men were dangerous, and love was weakness, and trust was a trap. She let it all go, and in its place she kept only this, the life she'd chosen, the empire she'd built, the man who'd waited 3 years for her to be ready, the beginning, not the end, the choice to create instead of destroy, the victory that came not from revenge but from refusing to let violence define her. She'd made the call that night in the basement, but in the end the call she'd answered was her own, the call to rise, to build, to love again, and that call had led her here, to this beach, to this man, to this life that she'd created with her own hands. They say you can't build paradise from ashes. Pamela Guzman Harrington proved them wrong.